Inravio.com.
Hello again, everybody. This is Joe Larson, and welcome to the 505 on Racing Show. We got a lot to talk about tonight. And I'll tell you what, we got some surprise stuff to talk about, stuff that breaking news out of the headquarters of NASCAR. But we have our Lost Speedway discussion. Tonight we're going to talk about the Deer Park Raceway on the Babylon-Huntington line on Long Island. We're going to talk about Rockingham Speedway, also known as the North Carolina Motor Speedway, and Flemington Speedway, which was a donut-shaped or an oval shape, not even oval, almost square type of racetrack and down in New Jersey. Got results out of the Glen for the Cup Xfinity and the K&N Pro Series East, as well as the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tours out of the Stafford Motor Speedway up in Connecticut. We'll have some race chat as always. We're going to talk about some tech stuff that goes on, and not only in the top levels of racing, but also in the weekly racing series as well. And we're going to talk about some penalties that were handed out after Pocono, which got kind of surprising. But anyway, we're going to go right to that breaking news with Brian France. And what happened with Brian, not only this weekend, but yesterday. NASCAR CEO Brian France was arrested in Sag Harbor, New York, the east end of the southern fork of Long Island, last night for driving while intoxicated and possession of a controlled substance. Brian France was arrested at 7:30 p.m. Sunday night and held overnight according to News 12 Long Island and other published reports. His lawyer could not be reached for comment. However, NASCAR executives say until they get the details, they will not discuss the matter further. They did say, however, that this is a serious matter, and they will make a public statement once all the facts are gathered. France is 56 years old. He was stopped after his 2017 Lexus blew a stop sign. France has been CEO of the family-founded racing organization NASCAR since 2003. This leaves a lot of questions. One, I have to ask, as a reporter, a racing guy with a racing show, why was Brian France not at Pocono International Raceway for this event? The event started at 3:30 in the afternoon. To drive his 2017 Lexus from Pocono to Sag Harbor without traffic issues would probably take 3.5 to 4 hours. That tells me he wasn't there for the start of the race. He could have been there in the morning. Traditionally, the France family would send their yacht up and dock it in Sag Harbor or Shelter Island, and then they'd have a rental car, maybe a jet, take him around. And I'm sure that's where he was headed or was coming from. Who knows? Nobody knows the details. But what also bothers me, there's been many NASCAR drivers, crew chiefs, and even crew members who've been in the same situation, DWI, possession of controlled substances, unprescribed, and he banned them. Now, of course, there's a substance abuse policy. You have to go to rehab and take counseling, and when it can be proved that you're fine and can pass certain tests, you're kind of allowed back in. But look at Jeremy Mayfield. That guy did everything that was asked, to my knowledge, and he's still not back where he belongs. So now what does he do? He goes back to Charlotte, Daytona, wherever they have their meetings during the week, and he says, all right, I have to be banned myself. I really think that he needs to step down at this point. A lot of people feel he should have stepped down a long time ago because of the way he runs the business, a business started by his grandfather and made bigger and better by his father, Bill France Jr. This is not good for a sport that already is struggling. Like I said earlier, if you're the CEO of NASCAR and you have one event per week, you need to be at that event. You need to be walking around the garage area, talking to the owners, the team owners, talking to the drivers, maybe chatting with some crew chiefs, getting a little input, because it's obviously Brian France never built a race car, never drove a race car, never wrecked one, and never put it back together. These crazy rule changes that keep coming out and are dictated by people who never did those four things has become a little ridiculous. So if you talk to the people in the trenches, you might find out how to make your business better. Bill France Sr. was in the garage area, talking to the owners, talking to the drivers. And back then, a lot of teams are owner-operated, so to speak. But he talked to them, he got input from them. Bill Jr., the same thing. In 1998, I was walking around the garage at Daytona during the week of Speedweeks, and there he was, talking to people, listening to people. And as busy as he was, I went up, took a picture with him, shook hands, talked for a little bit. And even though I was, at that time, just became a weekly racing official, I mentioned that. And the one thing that he said to me is, kid, gonna do this, be consistent. Brian France is not consistent. And getting a DWI and being in possession of a controlled substance is not consistent to what he's putting out there, banning drivers and crew chiefs and crew members from their livelihood. Because at that level, it's a livelihood. It's not a weekend hobby. That's their livelihood. That's how they make their money. Every other Fortune 500 company that I know of, and that I have even worked for one, when you have that kind of problem, you're not banned. They give you an opportunity to fix it. Not once, not twice, in some cases 3 times. Now, I can understand when you have a driver who has a problem, I'll call it, that, hey, I'm not comfortable with you driving a race car 200 miles an hour with 40 other people, 39 other people. Go get yourself fixed. We'll help you. Who's going to help him now? Let's see if he does the right thing. Let's see if he does the right thing when he gets out and heads back south and figures out what's going to happen there. Because there was a misunderstanding. If a police officer, whether it's a little town like Sag Harbor or the NYPD or the state police in any jurisdiction in this country, pull you over, they are trained to look for certain things. They have a field sobriety test. There's blood test. If that's a no-brainer, you failed. You're not getting out of that. You might plead it down with your high-priced lawyers going to a little town like Sag Harbor. You might plead that down. But the bottom line is, he was over the limit, and he was in possession of a controlled substance. This is a black eye for NASCAR. And talking to some people today back and forth, one person said, maybe this is a message from above. Yo, Brian, you need to go. Let's get somebody in there could run this business. the way it's supposed to be run. Not just go party all weekend and go to the bank at the end of the week. Run this business. Bring the teams back. You know, to have 37, 38, 39 teams show up for a race 1 year ago, and not that far ago, where you were sending a good number of teams home. And you think about it, if each owner could only bring one race car to the racetrack, they'd be in trouble. Because some owners have 4 teams, some have 3. And you think about that. Why is that happening? Has the sport been priced out? Have they priced out the little guy? Yeah, they did. How could that happen? Some of these rules that have come up are just ridiculous. You can't, I guess you can, because they have, change rules in midstream. You can't change the rules in January. Cars are built. Cars are sitting there ready to go because Daytona is in 5 weeks when you start in January. It's a sad situation. It's, again, I'm going to say this again, it's a black eye for NASCAR. And from what I understand in published reports, when the police wanted to arrest him or said you're under arrest, his comment to the officer was, "Do you know who I am?" And you know what? When you're a third generation child of a multi-million-dollar corporation that your family owns 100% of, that might have worked on other things. But you come to New York, or you go to any other state other than the one that maybe you live in, and daddy's not there to protect you, they don't care who you are. They don't care if you're Goggles Paisano or the President of the United States. If you break the law, you're getting silver bracelets, you're going to be held, you're going to face a judge in the morning, and you're going to go on trial. And even with the biggest, best, most expensive lawyers that I'm sure that NASCAR is going to provide, there's still an issue here. So I don't wish him luck on this. For those who know me, that drug thing just eats me up. I don't like it. I don't think that it belongs in racing on any level. And he needs to make an example out of himself just for what he did to some of these drivers who had the same issues and the same problems. And I understand drug addiction is a disease. I understand that. But to ban a guy from his livelihood, his karma setting in. He'll still collect money because he still owns shares, but he needs to be banned from his livelihood now, and that's CEO of NASCAR. And I'm sure I'm going to get some nasty grams from this because I know people in NASCAR watch this show, and they have to play by the rules, because if you work for NASCAR, you have to be a perfect wooden little soldier and just do what you're told. But it's not good. And hopefully NASCAR can recover from this. Hopefully NASCAR puts a person in place that understands racing, understands race teams, understands what it's like to build a race car, to spend millions of dollars racing. I hope they find somebody that could do that. Because most of the people that could do that, Brian France chased away. Anyway, that's enough on that. That is definitely enough on that. We're going to take a break, I think. Yeah, we're going to take a break. I didn't think I was going to take that long on that, but I guess I did. And when we come back, we're going to talk about some penalties that were handed out at Pocono just last Tuesday, and we're going to go into our Lost Speedways discussion when we come back.
Hey, what's
set it
oh,
up.
I said was gonna say what's up for some reason. Hey, we're set it up, and you're watching the Inravio TV network.
Village Music Shop of Mastic. 1-800-HEY-DUDE, your full-service store with personalized attention, school band instrument rentals and sales, music instruction on all instruments for all styles and age groups, for guitars, drums, amplifiers, PA systems, and accessories. It's Village Music Shop, 1495 Montauk Highway in Mastic. Call 1-800-HEY-DUDE or go to villagemusicshop.com.
Hi there, this is Buddy from Less Than Jake, and you are listening to Inravio TV. You're probably watching it too.
The world of advertising has changed. Radio, TV, and newspaper revenues have declined drastically. Why? Because businesses have realized that advertising return on investment isn't what it used to be. So what can we do about it? Well, that's easy. Advertise online. Own a local restaurant, real estate agency, or even a national retail chain? Whatever your business, Inravio can get your message out there, and we can do it at a fraction of the cost. Call today and see the difference for yourself. This isn't TV. This isn't radio. This is Inravio.com.
For those who don't, welcome back, I should say. For those who don't know this, NASCAR on Tuesdays hold what they call a competition conference call / meeting, and they talk about the weekend and they decide penalties. I can remember when I was the head official at Riverhead, I would have to fax on Monday morning certain reports as well as any penalties and what penalty I recommended for that individual. They would go, and then Tuesday they would decide. They would sit there and decide, and overnight letters would be sent either late Tuesday or Wednesday, and usually have it by Thursday. The only time it would take longer is if I made a ridiculous penalty, which I did once, and but normally you get it in a couple of days now. But anyway, Pocono penalties. Following last weekend's event at Pocono International Speedway, NASCAR on Tuesday handed down penalties to two Monster Energy teams. Car 4 of Stuart Haas Racing, driven by Kevin Harvick, and the 95 car of Levine Family Racing, driven by Casey Kane. Both teams failed post-qualifying tech 3 times. Now, post-qualifying tech, you go over it, you look, boom, you go back 3 times. Both teams started in the rear of the field, and this was something that I was kind of surprised at, is that both crew chiefs were ejected for race day. Ejected, told to leave. Get out of the garage, you're done. Now I'm sure with sponsors and stuff, they went up to the sponsor suites and whatnot, but that's the first time I've ever heard that they were asked to leave. So that tells me this. I know if my team failed tech 3 times and I thought it was right, and one of my crew chiefs is former crew chiefs is here watching, I don't think I'd be very professional and polite to the official who told me that what I had was wrong when I thought it was right. So I'm sure some words ensued, and I know there's a couple of NASCAR officials watching that work in different series, and the worst thing you could do to a NASCAR official is to embarrass them, make them feel bad, degrade them. I know I went through that with a team that I was trying to help have an understanding, and I said, do me a favor. It's not a competitive thing, it's not a safety thing, but fix it by next time. Next time came, it wasn't. Now the third time they come, now we're up in Mansfield, and it's not fixed. I'm not going to say who the team was, but I told them to load up and go home. And the series director backed me. And then he really backed me when they were driving the car back to their hauler to go home. They drove onto the racetrack for practice. So then the series director really backed me. So they missed a bunch of their practice fixing what could have been simple. But anyway, there's a lesson to be learned. Don't upset the tech people. There's certain people, you don't want to upset your UPS guy because you'll never get another package. You don't want to upset your mailman because that check that you're expecting might not show up. I'm not saying he did anything with it, but stuff happens. There's certain things people that you don't upset, but it happens. And I'm sure they're going to pay the price. Anyway, Lost Speedways, our new segment that we started last week, where we take a look at racetracks that are gone. Maybe why they're gone, what's there now. But the first one we're going to talk about is the Deer Park Speedway, located on Long Island on the Babylon-Huntington town line, just off of Deer Park Avenue, also known as Route 231. There's a picture of the place back in its heyday. The Deer Park Speedway was also known as the Dix Hills Racetrack and was located just north of the Huntington Babylon line, and originally a dirt track for midget racing. It opened September 28, 1928 as the new Auto Speedway on Deer Park Avenue, a half-mile track just miles from the Vanderbilt Motor Parkway, which was the first racetrack in America for cars, and north of what the newspapers said at the time, the new Sunrise Highway, which is Route 27. The location was chosen after much deliberation because it was only 30 miles from New York City and close to all major highways at the time. Cost to build was $300,000, and it could seat 6,000 fans and had plenty of parking. It opened under sanction from AAA, the American Automobile Association. At that time, the track was the most modern racetrack of its time. Now, although it was built as the most modern racetrack, safety was a concern. An early event saw a car flip multiple times and land in the seats, and many people were injured, the driver himself. The accounts on the injuries to the fans and drivers were happening over and over. The track was receiving bad publicity. The track continued, though, to operate anyway until 1941. It sat empty until after 1946. The track was virtually abandoned, and Angelo Longo purchased the track for back taxes and made the track a 1/4 mile paved track for the ARDC midgets. The scheduling was not consistent. They ran on Wednesday nights and Saturday nights. Then they chose to go to Sundays, then back to Wednesdays, and then they put an ad in a local paper. Look for the schedule in the paper, and you'll know when we're racing. It's not a way to run a racetrack. In December of 1947, local residents and property owners petitioned the town to terminate the track's operations as a public nuisance and fire hazard. The area surrounding the track was zoned as residential at the time, yet the track was grandfathered in. Its non-uses voided the grandfather clause, so because they weren't using it, the grandfather clause did not go into effect. You have to operate at least one event a year. Multiple lawsuits ensued, and a 2-year court battle with the town was won by the town, and the track never saw racing again. In 1988, 52 plots on the 29 acres saw a subdivision be built, and also a housing apartment complex was also built and still standing. The track was just mismanaged. Everybody thinks it's easy to run a racetrack. But you look at some of those pictures. Those are before it was a quarter mile. You see some midgets on there. And I had the opportunity right before it was bulldozed. A UPS driver told me that it was there. And I walked through the woods, and there it was. And I couldn't understand why there was a big track and a little track. And then doing the research, I found out that's what it was. They made it a quarter mile. And, but it's gone. It's gone. Not even a plaque. Anyway, the next one we're going to talk about is the Rockingham Speedway, also known as the North Carolina Motor Speedway. But in all that year, it was called the Rock. Opened in October 31st, 1965 as a flat 1-miler. In 1969, the track was reconfigured as a high-banked D-shaped track, a little over a mile in length. A project by Harry Bracington and Bill Land made it possible. Bracington was a land developer who also built Darlington Speedway in South Carolina. Curtis Turner won the first event, a 500-lap, 500-mile race with an average speed of 101.942 miles per hour. Now, the place was resurfaced, and then the track was sold to International Speedway Corp., which is owned by NASCAR. The last race was held on February 22nd of 2004, and weather became a factor as North Carolina winters could sometimes see snow. The race was always run the following weekend after Daytona. So here it is, the place had to go. However, shareholders who originally paid $1 a share for their investment into the racetrack sued for breach of promise to schedule events from NASCAR. ISC sold the Rock to Bruton Smith, which he owned Speedway Motorsports, Inc., and the Rock's second date was transferred to Bruton Smith's Texas Motor Speedway. In October of 2007, Speedway Motorsports put the track up for auction. And the place was sold. Again, being purchased by former NASCAR team owner Andy Hillenberg. And he bought the place for $4.4 million. He ran the ARCA Remax series there for a little while, and an event in May of 2008. A street stock race was held in 2009. The Camping World Truck Series event was held in April of 2012. In July of 2015, the Rock was foreclosed on due to Mr. Hillenberg failing to pay debts associated with the racetrack. In May of 2016, BK Rock Handling purchased the facility from a tax auction for $3 million, and he's looking to develop it into anything but a racetrack. This is what happens. When you buy these properties, at a time where there's nothing there and the land was cheap, and then people start building and buying around you, you kind of get squeezed out. It's a shame. I went there once. I went there once in I'm going to say, right before, I guess, it closed up. Unfortunately, it wasn't for a race. I just happened to be there working. And I said, wait, wow, that's rocking. So I went in, and and they always say, if you walk in like you know what you're doing, nobody will stop. If you walk in like you look in and you start asking questions, no, I just walked in like I owned the place, like, I belonged there. And nobody bothered me. I walked around. I was there for a good couple hours, but it's a shame that, it's gone. It's gone. Flemington Speedway. Ah, yes, Flemington Speedway. Now, this is a racetrack originally created as a 19th century horse track. It was a half-mile in length. It was a four-cornered dirt oval in 1911. The first auto race was held in 1915 on a dirt surface. The grandstands, which were installed finally in 1917, remained until the track's demolition in 2005. A weekly racing track for years on Saturday nights. Lights were finally installed in 1956. And during the 66-67 off-season, the track was reconfigured and just short of 5/8 of a mile and made it square. The new configuration was fast, very fast, causing terrible crashes, because basically you're in a turn the whole time. Former NASCAR team owner Ray Everham basically ended his driving career there with a horrific crash at the facility. The track added foam blocks, which led to the creation of the safety barriers used in the Sprint Cup and Xfinity racetracks today. However, the track was continuing to lose money, and it was losing money every year, season after season, and closed November 2nd, 2002, and sold off to developers who demolished it in 2005 and put up a shopping mall. And I have a little love for Flemington Speedway. That was a racetrack. I worked my first NASCAR Wheel-In Modified Tour. It was the NASCAR Federalite Tour at the time. That was my first event. I didn't know how to get there. There was no MapQuest back then. There was no GPS. I got lost. And I looked at the racetrack, and I was like, where's the straightaway? I said, there is none. And a lot of guys I knew raced there, and they talked about when you crash there, if you get out of your race car, just grab your helmet because the car is junk. And after watching a modified race there, I totally understood that. Anyway, racetracks. Support your local racetrack, because when they're gone, and nobody's building any new ones, not anytime soon. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Remington.
I'm Emerson.
And I'm Sebastian.
We're Palais Royale, and you're watching Inravio TV.
There we go.
The world of advertising has changed. Radio, TV, and newspaper revenues have declined drastically. Why? Because businesses have realized that advertising return on investment isn't what it used to be. So what can we do about it? Well, that's easy. Advertise online. Own a local restaurant, real estate agency, or even a national retail chain? Whatever your business, Inravio can get your message out there, and we can do it at a fraction of the cost. Call today and see the difference for yourself. This isn't TV. This isn't radio. This is Inravio.com.
Hey, this is Chris Lost Jake, and if Inravio.com spots you at an event wearing this bracelet, they will give you $100.
Village Music Shop of Mastic. 1-800-HEY-DUDE. Your full-service store with personalized attention, school band instrument rentals and sales, music instruction on all instruments for all styles and age groups, for guitars, drums, amplifiers, PA systems, and accessories. It's Village Music Shop. 1495 Montauk Highway in Mastic. Call 1-800-HEY-DUDE or go to villagemusicshop.com.
This is Mike Jarecki from My Race News, and you're watching the Inravio TV network.
Hey, welcome back. I want to thank everybody who's on the social media, watching our live feed. Thank you. And I also want a little shout out to my good buddy, Cookie Visconti. He's in a little situation there. He was hospitalized, some problems with his hip and some other things, and he spent a few days in the hospital. And he's over in a rehabilitation center, and I had the opportunity to go visit Cook with Lisa. We had a good time. So, Cook, on behalf of everybody here at the 505 on Racing Show and Inravio TV and Ultimate Media, good luck, get well, our prayers are with you. And I want to share a little quick story, but, you know, I pulled up to this place, and I was like, this can't be it. There's like guys out there valet parking, his luggage racks in the lobby. And it turns out that was the place. And, you know, you go in, and then, you know, Cookie was always excited to see us. And we sit and we tell some stories. And then Cookie says, I want to get a pastry. I said, where are we going to get a pastry, Cook? This is a pastry shop right here. And so we get him in his wheelchair, and we wheel him over. And he goes, and there's no money here. You tell them what you want, they just give it to you. I'm like, really? So we had some pastries, even though the both of us shouldn't be eating pastries. But I kind of ratted him out, and the people know him there, and he couldn't have the pastry he wanted. But it was fun going and cheer him up. And I hope you're still cheering up and smiling. I see your son's there with you, JV. And JV, you don't have to thank me for doing that, because that's what we do. Anyway, a lot of racing at the Glen, Watkins Glen. Upstate New York, one of the prettiest facilities I ever worked. Wow, it was good. Anyway, the Cup was there. We'll go with the Cup first. The winner of this event was Chase Elliott, son of Bill Elliott, also known as Awesome Bill from Dawsonville, who won his first Cup event at the Riverside Park Raceway in California, a road course. So here we got, oh good. Chase Elliott was the winner there, as we said. Awesome race, battling Martin Truex. At the end of the race, Martin finished in second. Kyle Busch was third. Daniel Suarez fourth. Eric Jones fifth. Kyle Larson was sixth. Jamie McMurray seventh. William Byron eighth. Kurt Busch ninth. And Kevin Harvick rounding out the top 10. The next event for the Cup Series will be at the Michigan International Speedway this upcoming Sunday, one of the fastest racetracks on the circuit. Xfinity was also at the Glen, as they call it, and we had Joey Logano, the winner there, followed by A.J. Allmendinger. Justin Allgaier was third, Ryan Preece fourth, good for Ryan, old modified guy. Eric Almirola fifth, Cole Custer sixth, Brandon Jones seventh, Ryan Reed was eighth, Christopher Bell ninth, and Brad Keselowski rounding out the top 10 there. The Xfinity Series will be at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course Saturday, August 11th. The Camping World Truck Series was off this weekend. Their next event will be at the Michigan International Speedway Saturday as well. The K&M Pro Series East made a stop at the Glen, and that's a race. I worked with the K&M Pro Series as an official at this event as I did with the Cup, and I'll tell you what, I had the same job for both, standing out at the bus stop, making sure nobody drove through it. But anyway, the results for the K&M Pro Series East go like this. Brad Moffitt was the winner there, followed by Will Rogers. Scott Heckett was third. Spencer Davis fourth. Sam Meyer was fifth. Bubba Wallace was sixth. Tyler Ankrum seventh. Ruben Garcia Jr. was eighth. Harrison Burton ninth. And Ronnie Bassett Jr. rounding out the top 10. The next event for the K&M Pro Series East will be at the Gateway Motorsports Park Friday, August 24th. And that's always a nice event for the K&M Pro Series guys. The NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour was at the Stafford Motor Speedway last Friday night as part of the weekly entertainment there at Stafford. And Doug Colby was the winner there, and followed by Woody Pitkat. Eric Goodale was third, Rowan Pennick fourth, Timmy Solomina was fifth, Craig Lux was sixth, Justin Bonsignor seventh, Jimmy Blewett was eighth, Kyle Bonsignor ninth, and Chris Pacharak rounding out the top 10 there. The next event for the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour will be at the Thompson Motorsports Park this coming Wednesday, August 8th. And this is where their schedule gets a little crazy. But I'll tell you what, it's coming to the end, and Justin Bonsignor is still leading the points. But it's good to see Doug Colby pick up a win there, and of course, Justin having a top 10 finish there. He can't win them all. He just can't win them all. And, you know, and talking about the modifieds and what goes on with the modified series, you know, and my years spent on the modified series, and I probably have told this story before, nobody from Long Island really ran that series. The late, great Tom Baldwin, Tiger Tom Baldwin, was a competitor in that series on a regular basis. But other than that, the guys and teams from Long Island were known as the Wrong Island Gang. The Wrong Island. If they raced at Riverhead, they shouldn't be on the tour. That was the mentality back, I'm going to say 15, 16 years ago, when I was on the tour as a race director and then a lead technical inspector. And how they made me a lead tech, I didn't know what I was doing. I just followed the rule book. But anyway, that's a whole nother story we'll talk about one day. But when you look at the series now, Riverhead Raceway went through a transitional period where there was just a lot of politics. A lot of modified guys got tired of the politics. I think the Goodales are one of the first to leave and go tour racing. And, you know, it's a bunch of guys. And one day I'm going to do a story just on that and talk to them as to why they went from a local racetrack that one guy could walk from his shop to the racetrack and they decide to travel. But now it's not the Wrong Island Gang. The guys from Long Island are tearing it up. I mean, they are tearing it up. Now, just looking at the guys who finished in the top 10 this past weekend, you know, in the modifieds, just those guys alone, you know, Justin Bonsignor, Craig Lutz, Kyle Bonsignor, who started in go-karts at Riverhead Raceway. You know, you see these names. Kenny Hagee is part of that. Eric Goodale, you know, and when it was a two-car team with his brother Kevin. You know, now, you know, Kevin's running the business and Eric's running. But when you look at that, you look at what's happened to that series, you know, it's just Timmy Solomino worked his way up from go-karts and street stocks and, you know, made his name known. And even Jimmy Blewett ran regularly for Eddie and Connie Partridge in the modifieds at Riverhead, even though he's from New Jersey. It's a whole different makeup in the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. And I'll tell you what, you have your 20, 25 regulars that never miss a race, and you have the other guys who pick and choose for whatever reason. But, you know, and I'm going to say this on any given night, in any given event, I'm going to say that 15 guys could win that race. That's how competitive this series is. It really is. Anyway, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to have a little race chat. We're going to talk about officiating, tech, and an interpretation of how that goes when we come back.
Hey guys, this is Jibs from Ocean's 8, Alaska, and you're watching Inravio TV Network.
Hey, I'm Raul Panther.
And I'm Commander B. Hawkins.
And I'm Rich Willie. We're some of the proto men. If we see you without this bracelet, you get punched in the But if you have this bracelet from Inravio.com, you can win $100.
Put one of these on, or else.
What's up, guys? This is Assuming We Survive, and you're watching Inravio TV Network.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. Yeah, we're going to be wrapping up in about 10 minutes or so. But anyway, you know, as we all know, I look at social media and I try to see what's going on in racing, not only at my local racetrack, which is No Secret Riverhead Raceway. I didn't always have a good relationship with the past owners, but I think that's all behind us. The new ownership is doing a great job. Eddie and Connie Partridge and Tom Gatz, and along with management, I guess, from a group of people, including John Elwood. But anyway, there was a post on social media about the scales. And this isn't just that here on Long Island, it's at every racetrack. And I was gonna make a list of the number of racetracks I've been to in my lifetime, and I have it somewhere, but I'm in the process of doing some stuff, and some stuff's packed and unpacked and piles. But anyway, if I had a nickel every time a driver went over the scales and they were told, you're too light. No, I was good at the shop. Well, I raced the tour last night and they said I was good. It's just like anything else. You go to a racetrack, you accept their rules, you accept their tech equipment. If their scale says you're 2 pounds too light, so be it. So be it. Suck it up. You know, you're right to the edge, and I know this, so you're right to the edge, and your fuel is measured so precisely, and that, you know, basically if you do win and you go to tech, that you just have enough fuel to get back to your pit spot. But a lot of people were saying some stuff, and there was one driver who actually did a print screen of the rule of the scale, and what he printed or posted or copied and pasted was correct, and basically it was like, if it's a situation or that's beyond the control of the driver, the weight difference should be, or it could be, accounted for. Yeah, if you lose a bunch of power steering fluid and your muscle in your race car, you know, the power steering pump probably holds about 2 or 3 pounds of fluid. You know, yeah, let's say you have a fuel leak, and when fuel leaks onto a hot racetrack, it evaporates. So yeah, that might be the situation. But I'll tell you, and I've seen this, and I've seen this, and I've worked a lot of series in the top 3, the K&N and the modifieds, where when the cars go over the scale, my responsibility was to do something there. Measure chassis heights, measure kick-up, measure spoiler heights, whatever. And I watched the car with that, and a modified, which is it's 2,650 pounds with the driver, go over the scales, and something wasn't right. And I'd glance at the number, and I'd see 2652. And they'd roll back, and they'd roll it back on the scale pads. Now it's on in a different spot. 2547. Would the car take a 5-pound diet? Does it back down the scales and came back up? So as a crew chief, you gotta direct your driver. And what you need to do is you need to, when you get to the racetrack, go to those scales, whether it's your local track or a track you're visiting, put your car on the scales. At the end of the race, that's the scales they go by. Go over the scales, get your numbers, get your cross weight, get your percentages, get your total weight. And you're gonna say, why are we 5 pounds light? Nobody knows. Are those scales wrong? Maybe. Are your scales wrong? Maybe. But you know what? If you win, those are the scales you're going over. Now, one of the things that I always suggested, some places listened, some didn't, and I'm hoping that if there's any track operators or officials here, they listen. Once the scales are set up, and I know we did this on the modifieds, we'd have an official stand on the scale to make sure he was the same. Let's say you took me, I'm 200 pounds, I stood on each scale pad, all four. 200, 200, 200, we're good to go. Later on in the day, after they've been out all day, you do it again. Now, I'm not saying you get a 200-pound guy. I used to use a 24-pound weight. Why I use a 24-pound weight? Because that's just the one I happened to have that wasn't on one of my race cars. And I put it on to make sure. Well, if the scale pads are in the hot sun all day, it's going to change because metal, when it gets hot, it expands, and it's going to change the weight. So, my recommendation to racetracks is to make sure throughout the day that your scale pads are all measuring the same thing at 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, or when it's cold at night and you just ran a feature. Continually measure and adjust your numbers to that variance, or decide what the variance is going to be. Because there's nothing worse than a guy thinks he's won, maybe it's his first race, maybe it's his 90th, or who knows, to be said, oh, no good, too light, 3 pounds. Come on. Give the guy a bottle of soda and it'll work. And I knew a driver in the EKRA that they were going to be 10 pounds light because they weren't a normal driver and they didn't think about it. So what somebody did is they put 2 5-pound weights in their helmet, put the gloves on top of that, put the helmet in the seat. Now they were right on. There's so many ways to do those things, so many ways. But you also need to be competitive friendly. Yeah, you got to be consistent with the rules. If the rule says X, you got to do X. If it's Y, you got to do Y. But you also have to be competitive friendly and consistent. Now, I saw years ago, and back in my racing days, I saw years ago where a guy was 5 pounds light, they booted him, boom, DQ'd. But I saw another guy go 25 pounds light, and they whispered in his ear, he went back to his hauler. And they stuffed his cooler full of ice and beer into the trunk deck. Went back over the scales, you're good. That wasn't right. That wasn't right. But competitive friendly. But also, as a competitor, don't get into it with the official. The official's working as directed, whether it's by a race director, by a track operator, by whomever, they're working as directed. And if they're told the car has to weigh 3,000 pounds, 29.99, and 15 ounces is not the right number, don't yell at that guy. Because let me tell you that's the guy that can make a break for you down the road on a gray area thing. And I'm only saying this because I see it happen all the time. And I'll share a quick story. I think we got time. Years ago, I ended up with a motor that was illegal. I'm not going to get into the whys of the hows, but somebody blew a motor a couple of weeks before the end of the season. They were up in the points. They had this illegal motor, and the rule for that class was the motor could be, the block could be bored 30 over. I don't have time to explain what that is, but it's just how much you open the cylinder block, right? So if the stock number, and then you go 30.30 more than that, okay. Well, they had to clean up the walls of the cylinders, they had to go 60 over. I end up with the motor. I'm not a front runner. I'm not going to the scales and being checked ever. I had fun most of the time. So what happens? That motor gets sold. And here I am, I'm the head guy, and I had this one driver who was always breaking my shoes. And I finally took him in my office. I said, listen, dude, you have a question, ask it, I'll answer it. If you don't agree, we'll go in my office. You could, whatever you want, say whatever you want, curse me out, scream me out, throw things, I don't care. But don't embarrass me, and I won't embarrass you. And it continued, and it continued, and it continued. Well, one night the guy finished his 9th, and he was the random draw for us, go to tech. So the head tech guy goes, the guy finished like 9th something. Why are you sending him over? I'll be right there. I'll go with you. So I said, just pull the head and measure. Well, it's bored. So he measured 60 over. This driver's flipping out. No, it's not. It's 30. Your guy don't know how to build, he doesn't know how to tech motors. The guy builds motors for a living, that's a whole nother story. And yeah, you're no good. So technically the motor becomes NASCAR's. He's DQ'd, he's fined, and all kinds of stuff. He refuses to give us the motor. He leaves. Guy calls me up the next day. He says, I owe you an apology. In the daylight, the Pistons are stamped 60 over. He goes, the only question is, how did you know? And all I could say to the guy was, because I know it's my job to know. Years and years later, he still has that motor. He lends it to somebody. The guy parks next to my guys. And I'm looking, I says, that motor looks familiar. And he goes, oh, man, how did you know? I said, look, I know you're helping the guy. The guy runs in the back. Don't worry about it. But because we made the piece and all that, I could give the gray. But if you're going to go on social media and bash track officials, bash the owners, be prepared to have a tough night or 2 or 3 or a whole season. Because you don't want to do that. Right? If you don't pass tech, it's disappointing, yes. But you know what? Starting an argument in the tech area makes you look like a fool and makes you look unprofessional. And I'm just saying, and if you want to go on social media and bash your local racetrack or bash a tech person, don't bash. Call up, try to get an answer. Or if there's a site in social media for your local racetrack, just put, hey, I don't understand. Why isn't there this? And, to bounce somebody for 2 pounds, you might have been smoking your tires every corner, and now your 85-inch tire is now 83. Yeah, the rubber you lost might be a pound. Do it in a nice way, and that's going to pay dividends. Trust me, I learned that the hard way. I was always the battle. I was always the screamer and the yeller. And then when people started screaming and yelling at me, I just learned I'm just going to let them go, because it's hard to scream at somebody who's not screaming back. And that's one of the things I do. And I've been in this business, I'm going to say now, 42 years, if not more, in some capacity or another. And that doesn't count my time as a fan. Going to my first race at the Freeport Municipal Stadium on Long Island in 1965, I was 7 years old. I didn't count those years. Those 42 years as crew guy, crew chief, driver, owner, official. Spent a lot of years as an official. And one of the things I did when I became an official is I decided I'm going to treat the drivers the way I wanted to be treated when I was a driver and competitor or a car owner. And yeah, when I worked for NASCAR, they told me, you think too much like a driver. Yeah, I did. Whatever. Sometimes you got to give them a break, especially if it's not a safety issue or a tech or a competitive advantage. You give them a little break. Fix it next time. And speaking of next time, I won't be here next Monday. I will be missing next Monday. I have some things that I have to take care of, and I'm going to be out of pocket for about a week. So it's nothing bad. So for those who are concerned and care about me, it's nothing bad. It's just something that I have to take care of. And so we will not be live next week. We'll not be on the air. But the following week, we will be. We will be here. August 20th will be our next show. We'll have a lot to talk about. Some more Lost Speedways, more results. And we'll start talking about the points, the chase, and how that's looking moving forward. So wherever your endeavors are going to bring you this weekend, please be safe. Please be careful. Give somebody a hug. Tell them you love them. Thanks for watching. God bless you all. Good night, everybody.
Inravio.